Hello everyone, this is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover. I'm back with another video. Now I want to review a movie that I've already reviewed this on the Body Bags channel. And this is something that honestly feels like I really should be reviewing it from my channel. Um, yeah, if to a lot of the people that are subscribers to my channel or people that have, looked down the list of videos that, I've done over the last few months, when I started my channel, one of the things I was doing a lot of movie reviews for basically sexy vampire movies, particularly with like a lesbian bent to them. I reviewed movies like, Lust, not Lust, Female Vampire and Fascination and, Embrace of the Vampire and all that stuff. And like I said, I reviewed this for Body Bags, but I felt like I really should have reviewed this one for my channel. And the movie I'm talking about is The Vampire Lovers. This is a 1970 film by Hammer. And, if I understood correctly, the way it was going was like we're heading into the 1970s. And it was getting to a point where a lot of the stuff that Hammer was doing just wasn't really like drawing in the audience as much anymore. And kind of a lot of the Dracula movies were kind of starting to wear thin, and the same thing with like some of the Frankenstein movies and everything else. And Hammer was kind of losing a little bit of its edge, and so they decided that they kind of wanted to push the envelope. So they were going to be a little bit more bloody. They were going to be more erotic and things like that. And with this movie, what they were going to do, they were going to try to do what I believe it's called the Karnstein trilogy, and it consists of this movie and Lust for a Vampire and Twins of Evil. And those were the three movies. And they're all basically lesbian vampire films. And this one here stars the late, great, super sexy Ingrid Pitt. And it's based off of the short novella Carmilla by, I know it says on here, where does it say? From J. Sheridan Le Fanu's novella. So anyway, yeah, and also too, real quick, the story of Carmilla it's been adapted numerous times. One other one other that comes to mind is the Blood Spattered Bride. That's an adaptation of Carmilla. There's other numerous adaptations of it, but this I think is probably one of the more well known versions of the film. And one of the things that kind of makes this movie interesting, though, was that I find it kind of weird. Okay, a lot of us, movie fans, especially horror movie fans and stuff like that, we all know about, Britain and the whole video nasties thing. If you're a horror movie aficionado, at some point you've heard of it, where the British censors got really uptight, and they were really imposing these strict censorship laws on horror films and stuff like that. I mean, for crying out loud, like Chainsaw Massacre came out in '73, and I think it wasn't even until like way into the '90s or even the early 2000s before they ever let it be shown. And the same thing with something like Last House on the Left. I think that movie just, only just a matter of several years ago, I think just, barely got, past the censor boards where it could start being viewed. And even then, some of the times these movies would be, you know, these movies would be released in a very cut down version and stuff like that. And Evil Dead was one of the ones they really went after. That one, and what was the other one? Cannibal Holocaust. Definitely. Oh yeah, they wanted Ruggiero Deodato's ass for Cannibal Holocaust. I remember that. But funny thing is, though, is like knowing all that and hearing about all that and how they were very strict about censorship rules and everything else. It was funny that they were really, heading into the '70s, they were starting to try to push the envelope, by including nudity into their movies. And yes, it's like you do get to see nudity in this. So in case if you're wondering, there is nudity in here. So, but I just find that interesting that how they started to try to put more blood, more gore, more and then they turn around and really try so hard to enforce all these strict censorship laws, and trying not releasing these movies, trying to sue the filmmakers and all these other kind of things. There's these great documentaries on the Video Nasties, put out by Seven Films, and there are three. There are two of them. There are three DVD sets. This is, I'm pretty sure most of you who are watching this video, you already know about this. I'm just saying for somebody who is not in the know. There's two of these documentaries. They're 3 disc sets each, put out by Severin. They're a little pricey, but they are worth it. They're fantastic. They're just so good. It's like they're hours and hours long, but they are so much fun to watch. They really are entertaining. I can't recommend them enough. Anyway, so going back to this movie. Now the movie starts off. We have this man that he's in this old castle, and right away I'm going to tell you, if you're you love the old Gothic, castles, spooky castles with the fog and the graveyard setting and all that other kind of stuff. You love the Gothic trappings of vampire movies and everything else. Then you're gonna love this. This is really good because it's got all that good stuff. And he's waiting and everything else, and then he sees this. It's actually kind of spooky in a way. He sees this creature come out of a grave and go off, and it turns out it's a vampire. Goes to get a victim and all this, and then coming back to the grave, he let's see. I remember. I think he puts like a cross on the grave or something, and he fixes the grave where the vampire can't go back in there, and he lets the vampire know that he's hiding inside the castle. So the vampire goes up, and it's this beautiful, voluptuous, gorgeous woman with this see-through gown, and you can see her body through it and everything else. And she's attempting to seduce him and bite him, and and he's able to defeat her and kill her and everything. And then that's pretty much where our movie starts. And then we go to basically this castle where this character called the General, who's played by Peter Cushing right there, and he's having his ball and everything else, and uh, he's entertaining guests and everything else. And then we have the arrival of Dawn Adams' character, and we are introduced to Marcilla, who is played by the very beautiful, the very gorgeous Ingrid Pitt. She's the unfortunately she's no longer with us, but she's the super gorgeous Polish model actress, and yeah, I mean, she just did so many great movies. She was in this. She was in House of Drip Blood, many other great films. So anyway, we're introduced to her character, and Dawn Adams' character goes to Peter Cushing, and there's this mysterious man in black who's always riding on a horse, and he is a vampire, but we're not really sure if he's Dracula or if he's actually the devil. We're not really sure who his character is. So anyway, so she goes to Peter Cushing and she asks him if he would be good enough to take Marcilla in while she goes and visits a sick relative, and it's an emergency situation and everything else. And Peter Cushing, is very polite and he agrees. And so she stays in this house where she becomes very friendly with Peter Cushing's niece, and she becomes very, very ill, and she's, dying and everything. And very similar to, like Mina in Dracula, where Mina starts being attacked, or not Mina, but Lucy. Lucy starts being attacked by Dracula, and, she's having her blood drained out, and little bit by little bit, she's, dying, and she's going to be turned into a vampire and all this other kind of stuff. Something similar here, and Peter Cushing is, very distraught over the whole thing and all this, and he notices there's something about Marcilla that he doesn't like, and he doesn't trust her very much, and he just really wants to find out like what is going on here, and he's calling the doctor, and of course the doctor comes in, and he's got some theories, but he's like trying to help save the girl's life and everything else, but ultimately it doesn't work out, and the young girl dies. And it's funny. Well, it's not funny, but it's unsettling because when she dies, Marcilla, Ingrid Pitt's character, is standing next to the bed. And so, basically they look at her, they see the girl's dead. They just look away for a second, and then they see that Ingrid Pitt, Marcilla, has disappeared. And so Peter Cushing is calling for her, but then she's pretty much gone. So then we come to this next family, and this girl and her father, they're riding in the woods, and They see this carriage, breaks down and everything, and has a bad accident and everything. So they go to see, what's going on and everything else. And then it turns out that, in the carriage you have Marcella here, but now she goes by the name Carmilla. And you have Dawn Adams' character, and she's basically asking, them, could you please put, Carmilla up for a while, and because, yeah, I gotta go visit a sick relative, but this whole, the carriage breaking down and everything else is too upsetting for Carmilla, and it's like I think she needs to rest and she needs a place to recover and everything else. And the daughter is like, oh, please, please, father, let her stay with us and everything else. And so, he reluctantly agrees, but, it's like, yeah, okay, I guess so. So anyway, so she's staying with this family, and her and the daughter become very good friends. And the daughter is played by Madeline Smith, and they start to um, anyway though, yeah, I got a picture of her. Just a second here. Okay, so I got a picture of her here. This is Madeline Smith, who very, very gorgeous, very beautiful actress. And so her and Carmilla, they start to develop this bond, this friendship, and everything else. And her character here is very, she's very naive. She's basically young and kind of has this kind of romanticized idea of love and life and everything else. And Carmilla kind of comes across as a little bit more of a woman of the world, and so they're talking and everything else, and it's becoming clear to see that Carmilla is falling in love with her character, and she starts trying to seduce her, and she's having nightmares, and she's starting to go through something very similar to what Peter Cushing's niece was going through, and she's starting to become ill, and like at one point she's talking, but at the same time they're talking like she's talking about boys, and Carmilla is very pissed. She doesn't like them talking about boys or things like that. So and she's talking about she's upset about death and everything else, and what ends up happening is to really crank up the eroticism of this film is that Carmilla is actually drinking blood from her breast. She's feeding off of her breast, and they're starting to become more and more worried about her. Well, the you know the governess, basically she starts to fall for Carmilla, and there's a very sexy scene there, and the way that scene is done is very beautiful. I mean, you see Ingrid Pitt, but the room is dark, but you can see her body, and see her gorgeous figure and stuff like that, and yeah, it's very, very sexy, very erotic, and things like that. And then it turns out that there is a young man who was actually he was very infatuated with Peter Cushing's niece, but she passed away, so he starts to become infatuated with her and everything else, and so you know but it's getting to the point the governess won't let anybody see her. At one point, the butler is talking about he wants the doctor to come and visit her, and she says no, and so he ends up getting the doctor to come over anyway, and so of course this causes problems and all this, and so they put her in a room and they got like garlic and all this stuff, and finally they're able to kind of convince them to take it out, and Carmilla can come and claim her as a victim, and you know basically Carmilla is just about taking everybody out of the household, but the man of the house, he goes to visit Peter Cushing's character, and Peter Cushing talks about it, and he has with him the man from the opening scene who killed the female vampire, and they're talking about Carmilla is actually a vampire and everything else, and so she's part of the Karnstein family, and that they need to go and defeat her and stop her before she can claim the young girl as her victim and everything else. And so I mean, it's very much it very much plays kind of like a Hammer movie. It's a race against time to save the damsel in distress. You got the young love interest, and um, you know, um, but yeah, kind of the big thing about this movie was I think it was pretty record record breaking at the time because just Hammer wasn't really known for nudity, and their stuff was like I said, their stuff was more pushing the borders of what they could show, what they could not show, in terms of blood, in terms of nudity, everything else. But overall, I mean, the movie is it's a good watch. You know um, it's a very entertaining 90 minutes. A lot of things happened though when they made this movie, and for one thing, unfortunately, Peter Cushing, I think he delivers a wonderful performance in the movie. He's still rock solid, still as good as he ever was. I think he did a fine job in this movie, and but there might be some out there who might watch this movie and think like, he didn't seem like he was as up to snuff as he usually is. But you have to remember when they were making this movie, the Peter Cushing's wife died, and basically he was trying to work through his grief. I mean, he was, very much in love with his wife, and the way he was dealing with mourning and everything else. He stayed busy in work and everything else. So, but I still think he did an excellent job, excellent performance. The movie I still think is thoroughly entertaining. It's a lot of fun to watch. It's great for a Halloween. It's, you know, yeah, I mean, if you really like, sexy, vampire movies, it's definitely good for that. It does say here on the back of the box, though, or in the caution, not for the mentally immature. So, in other words, yeah, if you don't like nudity and stuff like that, you're not going to like this. But I mean, everything about this movie works. It's beautifully photographed. Yeah, they don't really have this here. The poster is kind of misleading. You don't have the man chained up to a wall with the skulls and all that kind of stuff, and vampire women all over the place. That doesn't happen in the movie, but still, it's great poster art. It's pretty awesome. Um, but yeah, the women are beautiful. They're sexy. They're gorgeous. Everybody does pretty good. Gives a solid performance, I think. Ingrid Pitt. Oh man, it was easy to see why everybody loved her so much, and she oozes sexuality, and just the I think it's the whole she's exotic because she's Polish and everything else, and just her accent and her looks and her figure and everything else. I mean, just really just sets this movie apart, and she does a great job. And oh yeah, she was just so much fun to watch. And the women in the movie are beautiful. Madeline Smith is beautiful. Did they say who the other actress was? Kate O'Mara. Yeah, Kate O'Mara was the one who played the governess. Oh, she looked so sexy too. The women look good and everything else. So yeah, I definitely recommend The Vampire Lovers. If it's definitely one. Even if it's definitely one you want for your erotic vampire movie collection. But even if you're not really wanting a vampire erotic vampire, yeah, erotic vampire movie collection, this movie is still good. It's still a great old fashioned gothic, vampire film, and in the tradition of Dracula. So yeah, I really do recommend this movie. I think it's really good. I really, yeah. So anyway, so that's pretty much about it. We talked about The Vampire Lovers. I did it for Body Bags, and I did it for my channel. And yeah, I'm glad. And there we go. So if anybody took the time to watch all this, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I honestly do. I really do hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I kept you entertained, didn't prattle on too much. If you did like the video, please like and subscribe. I do weekly videos. I do movie reviews, doing shelf by shelf of my movie collection, and pickup videos, things like that. Always looking for new ideas to try to make more entertaining, fun videos. So yeah, please come back. And this is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover, and I wish you good night. And don't let the vampires bite. Okay, just keep those windows closed, or if you got to keep them open, at least keep some garlic and a crucifix handy. So couldn't hurt, right? Anyway, again, thank you very much. Have a good night. I'll see you later.